Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of The Dimensionalist. I'm a Dimensionalist. Today I'm going to be starting the series of lessons in the book The Mahatma and by Brian Grattan and the teaching so one can accomplish the 12 levels of initiation. I will be discussing things from it, reading little bits and pieces, and then discussing in my words and my understanding of the ascension and what I've experienced with what it's trying to explain to give one more in-depth detail on how the ascension process works and how and why these things that this book presents is necessary for one to accomplish the ascension. All right, now what I wanted to read here is the difficulty comes, as we just referenced, with people having such a strong tie to sequential time, there are many experiences in it, and become unable to make leap beyond the three dimensions to see that time itself is simply another dimension and has as much or little reality as solidity of this wall. The wall, the chair that you are sitting on, the body that you live in, are all made up of a lot more space than matter. When you consider the vast amount of space between particles of the atom, it is very much like the vast amount of space between the sun and its parts, the galaxies and their parts, and its solidity is highly illusionary. Is illusion. So then it goes on and says the vibration of the object is just the same as yours, and an object hits the table and the desk. You feel the solidity. If the vibrational frequency of the table were different than that of your body, then quite likely your hand would pass through it. So what it's explaining is the solidity of two objects touching, right? This book and this phone touch, is they're the same frequency. They're both operating on the same frequency. The same space between these two objects and the atoms and all the matter of these two objects are just as far away from each other as from here to the sun to anywhere. The space between the molecules and an object are just far apart. It's just the frequency of the objects allowing these two objects to touch. They're at the same frequency, technically. And then it says, when the vibration of the object is the same as yours, the object hits the table or the desk, you feel the solidity. If the vibration frequency of the table were different in your body, then quite likely your hand would pass through it because it'd be a different frequency. So now it goes on to say, beings as such as yourself and your higher aspects, who are the creators, create mankind in its physical plane, but could not experience it. In a sense, they would pass right through it. They could not hold any of it. It would be like a ghost walking through a wall. In order to have the experience, they had to immerse themselves in the matter. Now, before it mentioned that, it's discussing how the creator gods created the universe. They can't touch it because it's at a lower frequency, and they brought themselves to the lower frequency through souls and incarnated and just experience here on the physical plane, us, people, beings, and things of that nature. So now, and then the question here says, will the Akashic records be held for integration in one's physical lives? The Akashic records are an imprint, such as the etheric structure of your own systems contain an imprint of every thought, feeling, word, and experience that you've had. It is it is all contained here, and it ultimately gets stepped down even into the cellular DNA. There is a record of everything that you've ever done, and it is a holographic record. The Akashic record is the same process, the same situation, really, on the planetary conscious level. It is a matter of the thought form that is created from that experience. To a certain extent, when beings tune into the Akashic record, they get a rather edited version because within the vast because with because within the entire vast scope, we could liken it to a microchip All of the superfluous data is there as well. It contains all the impressions from a particular day, from every thought thought that was thought, and every feeling that was felt. Everything is recorded there. There is a tremendous amount of sifting and sorting out when going through that process because their fillers are different. The experience of the Akashic records vary from person to person. They attune to it. Each person picks up a different strata from a vast bulk of information, and even decoding and labeling tend to be different. So what that is explaining is that if I have an experience, like I had an experience of me bilocating, right, and my thoughts and everything around that, of that event occurring, um, is my experience. Now, when someone was to tap into the Akashic record, they would get part of the feeling, they would get part of what was seen, they would get a sample of the energy, and then they would have to interpret that themselves. And if someone else would do it, they would interpret that as something different. If I was to experience the Akashic records of the past to see exactly what occurred, I would have my experience interpreted upon experience I've already had that I'm searching for in the Akashic records, and then have another reference to experience what the Akashic records said about what is all done, and then I can formulate more thoughts around something, in the Akashic records. So that's what that's explaining there. And it says the Akashic record is a level of knowledge that can be picked up on any universal level. Of course, there is no need for the Akashic record on the spiritual monadic levels, meaning up the monad, the soul. The souls incarnate in here the physical plane, but then there's the souls connected to 144 soul, other 143 and 143 souls in one soul grouping, and then monad has thousands of souls that incarnate different planes and universes and things. And what's explaining here is there is no need for the Akashic record on spiritual monadic levels because energy is experienced directly there from how I interpret it and what I know, to that extent. And then it goes on to say there is a reason that even your logos do not know where the rider of the white horse, which is the Mahatma, comes from. That is recorded in the Akashic record or holograms per se. Only after the cosmic avatar has arrived into the universal physical density, then the logos uh, starts to understand where the Mahatma energy comes from, because that energy is just the Mahatma energy. Brian Grattan, the physical incarnation, just stepped himself, which is the rider on the white horse, which is biblical prophecy, has now entered the physical plane to be embedded on the Akashic record. Thus, there's no need. Thus there's a separation there. The spiritual monadic planes, spiritual monadic levels, not planes, because it's not a plane technically or dimension. It's a level of consciousness experiencing of where those souls and monads, soul groupings exist, and the spiritual levels to that extent. Now, the ring past not is an internal law. It's one part of where one is integrated in the physical plane, and one can experience up to the ring past not until one can relate to that level to get past that level. However, it says the ring past not is an internal law. However, when approved by the Council of 12, Metatron can release appropriate information about these beings to be of great assistance. Now, that's how the energy and these understanding and these concepts come down and are known. This is the reason that Violmus, who is working fifth dimensionally, has allowed information about creation in the creator levels so he could bring through information about the Mahatma and Brian's evolution and the formation of our source, which had never come through at any other period on Earth. It was felt by the creator level that the hasten of this cosmic name required greater energy formatting and information. So that's basically explaining that the creator level had used this cosmic data to receive and required more greater information, energy, and formatting and information for it to understand itself further. God's experiencing everything simultaneously, and we're God experiencing self, and we're God's experienced us. We are experiencing part of God. Each individual person is experiencing a part of God, um, to that extent. But I hope y'all enjoyed another video of the Dimensionalist, and here learning about the Akashic records and the references of how, you know, one needs to stretch thoughts of understanding the physical plane and frequency of the physical plane, and how objects are um, uh, frequencies and not actually solid, because that's we give its interpretation of solid because that's how we interpret reality. We give it that name, that label. Thus, that's how morality is interpreted that way. Thus, the stretch is needed to understand, you know, you know, crossing the higher planes and dimensions and things, and our physical body being a frequency, and thus you can go into higher planes and dimensions. Other than that, I hope you avoid another video of the Dimensionalist. Remember, I'm a Dimensionalist. Peace.